the crickets.
Yes. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can.
Is it like loud?
Yeah, I can hear it. It's
all right. Yo, what's going on? This is Relaxing NoG_Jackson, and I am back with Saint Kitch, and it is another episode of the Highly Advised Podcast. Amigo, compadre, we are here. How are you guys feeling? Well, how are you feeling, Spence?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. I can't call it. Like you said, it's episode 76.
Yep.
I have nothing to complain about. Life is good. Shout outs to Big Cozy, Too Cozy. He's not here right now, but shout outs to the Cozy clan. I know they're living life and forever relaxed, of course.
Very cozy.
Absolutely. So, but other than that, I can't really complain. I mean, a week has been a week, like every week has been a week. And I'm back with the listeners, listening again. Well, I'm not listening. They're listening to us, but you get the gist of it. How about yourself, man?
Oh, man, it has been an interesting night for me. So funny enough, I'm not sure if you knew this or not, but the lottery is about $700 million.
I heard.
And I play the lottery and whatnot. So I had, I was setting up a ring for my house, earlier today or whatever. And I was like, I'm about to go and get this lottery ticket. So as I walk out the house, I realized I grabbed the wrong thing, locked myself out of the house.
Oh my gosh.
What? Right. So, I was like, well, I got to call the locksmith and whatever. So I just decided to walk and get my lottery ticket. The store's close enough. So I was like, whatever.
Fiending for the ticket, right?
They said it was going to be like an hour. So I was just like, all right, well, I have time. And I didn't really feel like sitting in my car. Plus it was hot, da. So I get, halfway to the store, ring. Hey, man, I'm about to be outside.
Oh my
I'm
God.
like, all right, well, I got to get inside the store. I'm like here, you know what I mean? So I can't do it. It wasn't like halfway. It was close to the store. So, anyways, I go inside the store. I get the ticket, and I'm running back to the house. The most running I've done, consecutively since the whole broken leg thing. And yeah, man, I did get inside my house, but I was dripping sweat inside the Wawa.
Jeez, nasty, man. This boy was sweating all over your hoagie and subs.
Yeah, man. I was sweating in the sub, actually. Extra flavor for y'all.
That wasn't onions they tasted?
Nah, it was not.
You're a sick man, yo. You're a sick man. I hope
you sounds gross.
You're a sick man, yo. I hope you win the lottery and you break off the... let me tell the listeners this. If Nigel wins the lottery, this podcast will shut down. It will no longer... and it will be indefinite until our return, because this guy will be the hardest person to get in contact or reach with.
If I win the lottery, I'm going to keep on doing what I've been doing. And you won't know until I can collect that and be far away. So
you telling me if you found out tomorrow you won $700 million, you just going to wake up like, oh, it's just another day. It's only $700 million.
Well, obviously it's not going to be just another day because you're a millionaire, right? But that's not what you do. You can do it one of two ways. You can take your money and run, or you can be smart. Smart people try to take their money anonymously. You got to wait a decent amount of time in order to do it, and you got to pay some money, legal fees.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know you take a pay cut if you take a cut when you do it anonymously. So, well, I know it varies state to state, but listen, I mean, it's well worth it, honestly.
Would you rather do that, or would you rather have a million phone calls the next day? Yo, glad you won, da. People mad because you didn't give them $10,000.
Hey, it doesn't matter to me because I'm not picking up the phone.
Okay, you just ignore them.
Yup.
Okay.
Listen, I'm only picking up the phone call for those that have called me in the past 30 days. So
I respect that.
It's like, yo, I heard you just won 7. Who's this? Click. Oh, cuz I click. Hey, I click. So it won't even get to that hey part. It'll just be like, and I'll just be like, huh.
How do you think Dana White reacted when he got the phone call for Jon Jones' situation? Do you
Probably
think he
similar.
ignored it, or do you think he actually answered it? I'm sure he had to answer it.
I mean, he had to answer it, but I think at this point it's probably like, huh? Like, oh, again. It's man, listen. Dana, I think at this point, Dana doesn't even know what to do with this guy. Like, because you can't cut him because he's still, at the end of the day, he's still a huge draw.
You know, this whole situation is just crazy to me, man. Like,
well, how about, before you get into it, what is the situation if the listeners aren't aware of what we're talking about?
So, for the listeners who don't know, Jon Jones, former UFC champion, has been arrested for what appears to be the beating of his wife. Now,
and assaulting a vehicle.
Now, you know, as the reports came out, his wife has denied that. And of course, you know, he has denied that. But if you read the report, there are several things in the report that do not look good for Jon Jones. Jon Jones's kid was the one who actually suggested that the cops be called. Now, to me, when I read the article, that was really the detail that did it, because like no kid should want to call the cops on their, you know, parents. But that just seems to be as to what happened. Now, even though his wife did deny it, and, you know, it seems like they're back together in their videos and whatnot, I think that this is not a good look for Jon Jones at all. And me personally, I still feel with the thought I had last week of him just fading away. You know what I mean? Like, I think Jon Jones has done a lot for the sport, but anything else, you know, this is going to be one, he should fade away, because I feel like we shouldn't. It appears that Jon Jones did something. You know what I mean? Now, there's no proof of that, but it appears that way. So, but if he continues to fight, this is always going to be a constant thing. It's similar to the, you know, the PEDs and whatever. Like, I feel like how many, you know, more of these do you really need to go? You know what I mean? Is it going to take one more thing? Like, because it keeps on getting worse at this point in time.
I mean, it does. It has gotten worse. I don't know. It's one of those weird things when it comes to him, because his talent is so high. His level of talent is so high and regarded so high within the community of MMA and combat sports, that it's one of those things where it's like, you're so talented, to let you go would be the biggest loss for anybody within the sport, within the UFC itself. Because trust me, I'm quite sure ONE FC, PFL, Bellator, I'm quite sure all of them are salivating at the chance to sign Jon Jones the moment they would release him. So that part is kind of tricky, but when it just talking about what happened in this whole situation with him, it's really sick. If what we read in the article is true, it's really upsetting, and it seems like he did have some admission of guilt via his story, just based off him saying, "Hey, I've learned my lesson again. I'm not going to be drinking, and I'm only going to be lifting weights and working out." And you see him like bench pressing 225 on his story when he's saying this. So, or captioning that over the video of him doing bench pressing 225. So I don't know, man. This is a tricky one, man, because the guy is just too talented to let go, and him fading away. I think him fading away is either like, it comes one of two ways. Either it's a suspension, or that it would be a suspension that would push him to 39 or 40 years old, or it would be, he would have to fade away in the way Anderson is. And that's just losing, having a bad streak where I'll still watch you, but you're a shell of who you were. And Jon hasn't shown that yet. He hasn't shown that. Granny's taken 2 years off, but he hasn't shown it yet, man.
Well, here's my thing for Jon Jones, right? Like, me personally, in this situation, I find it hard to, you know, essentially separate what he's done to what he's doing now, only because his kids and wife are involved. You know what I mean? I feel like that should be like, hey, like, that's like the last straw. You know what I mean? I'm not necessarily saying it's weird because according to reports and whatnot, you know, his wife, I guess, never pressed charges. So it's like he seems to be, you know, free and everything's good to go. So I don't know. It's weird because do you follow the punishment of the law or do you enforce it yourself? It is a tricky situation, but at the same point in time, I don't know. It's just, I feel like how much is too many? You know what I mean?
Right. But even then, in this type of situation, right, it gets even trickier because then you look at someone like Greg Hardy, where I believe when he came into the UFC, there was some things I think that were speculating around him where I think he had, I believe it was Greg Hardy, had assaulted his girlfriend or whatever. I'm not sure if it was girlfriend or his fiance or what she was to him, but it was his spouse nonetheless. And this happened immediately, like a week or two before his fight, and he still fights. Now, granted, this is like his one strike compared to the several that have been lengthened for Jon. So it gets a little tricky in that situation. So and I mean, I think honestly, my biggest concern just as a fan, from a fan's perspective, is I just think Jon at this point, and who knows? I mean, we've said this before. There's been plenty at this point. But he really needs to get out. Like, all jokes aside, even DC says, like, yo, you got to do better. Like this, and that's his mortal enemy, for lack of better terms.
Well, I mean, of course, he's been saying this stuff for a while, though. You know what I mean? Like, he's had words to say about Jon Jones because Jon Jones said, like, hey, I've made mistakes. And DC said this is, like, you know, just his behavior and who he is, you know. I think that when you're doing things over and over and over again, you know what I mean? If it's seemingly getting worse, like it's one thing if he's still riding around New Mexico, drinking vodka, shooting his gun in the air. You know what I mean? Like nobody's getting hurt by that. It's wild. Bro, it's a wild thing to do, but nobody's getting hurt.
Bullets have no names though.
He's shooting in the air, in the sky.
Where does the bullet? So the bullet just the bullet is not Bobby Shmurda's hat. It's got to come down.
Okay, but who's it hitting up there though?
Who the bullet gonna hit when it drop?
I hear you.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like the laws of science, man. You get what I'm saying? Like I'm not justifying it, but I'm not justifying you beating your wife.
You never took a gun and shot in there?
Nah, I don't shoot guns, man. I don't shoot guns. But nah, like that's my thing at the end of the day. Like I'm not justifying him beating his wife over shooting a gun.
Right.
But I think at the end of the day, he just gotta one or two things is gonna happen. Either my guy is going to get tangled up in some more issues because when he was drinking that one time before, he hit a car. It had a pregnant lady in it. He hopped out of his whip and he ran, and then he got arrested the following day after.
See, I feel like back in the day, people would say, hey, this was young Jon Jones, though. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he was younger. He just made a mistake. You know what I mean? I feel like that was easier back in the day before he had like 2 or 3 of these.
I mean, I guess people would give him that pass, but even then, I don't even know because even during that time, there was like a snowball of effects, man. Right. Like first DC fight, I think that's when he popped for coke or something like that.
Yeah.
And then shortly after the coke situation is when he hit the chick with the car, and it was just like, yo,
you're right.
You're not doing good already. Like that wasn't the first thing that happened. Him hitting the woman when he was drunk was after he had already gotten in hot water. Yeah. And then it just snowballed. So it's like, now don't get me wrong. And I'm not I'm not justifying his actions because to me, when those type of actions happen, even for me personally, I probably won't root for him anymore, especially if these allegations are true, because I don't personally, for me, I just don't support anybody that hits women.
Of course.
Any man that hits women. And I think we all can agree to that, even Lau, who's not here. But it's one of those things, man, where it's like, yo, you have so many chances, you're messing up. But at this point, I think for him, he's just going to have to, like, the only way Dana's going to be able to write him off is if he loses, because unless you cut this guy, he's going to pack a stadium. You can't give him second to none talent because he's going to beat them. You put him in front of someone. I mean, maybe the best matchup he could probably pray for. And when I say that I mean Dana is hoping maybe Cyril Gane fights him and beats him. And then maybe that's like, okay, this is like the passing of the torch type of fight, but I don't see that happening.
Well, I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see as to what happens with Jon Jones. You know what I mean? Like,
definitely.
The way I see it is like, I would hope that there's no truth to this, but the situation doesn't look good for Jon, and that's just being realistic. But in the meantime, we do have good fights coming on. We just have a fight that was announced to us and a fight that is coming up that we will talk about in a minute. But the fight that was announced was Petr Yan versus the Sandman himself, Cory Sandhagen. The fight's going to be taking place instead of Aljamain Sterling, who was out with an injury, maybe not an injury. From the sounds of it, Aljamain was not injured, but the UFC doctors did not clear him. From what the story is, it seems kind of like a murky situation.
Yeah, well, I definitely know I did see him tweet in response to this, because I think it might have been Petr Yan that may have said, I don't even know, it may not have been Petr Yan that had tweeted about it, but there was someone that was tweeting. There were fighters that were tweeting that that this was fake and this is his way of copying out of the fight, because I mean, anybody that follows the sport of MMA understands that there were some issues around him getting the title, Aljamain getting the title in the first place. So it's always been there's been some conflict with that already. So I think, to me, I'm guessing the community probably, from what it seems like, the community thinks, oh, this is just another way of milking having that title still. But if the doctors didn't clear him, the doctors didn't clear him. But he's on. How long? When did Aljamain win his belt? Because it's close to a year, right? Or 6 to 7 months at least.
I would say if it's not a year, it's getting damn close to a year at the least. But even still, that being said, with all the murkiness of the fight being made, because I mean, it definitely seems like some stuff is going on. I agree with you. Like, if he's not cleared, he's not cleared. Now, whether he didn't get cleared of his own volition or whether he couldn't get cleared are two totally different things, and probably we'll never know that. But regardless, this fight, Petr Yan versus Cory Sandhagen, I think this fight's great. And I'm very excited for this fight. I think that Cory Sandhagen kind of got the raw deal in his fight against TJ Dillashaw that he had recently. And I thought that he should have actually took that decision. But now that he's in the title picture, this is actually pretty great, because I think that he should have fought the winner of Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. So a lot of people see Aljamain as like the fake champ, quote unquote, because of, the way the fight ended. But I like Aljamain. But that being said, though, I think he should fight the winner of this fight, and I'm very excited for this fight.
Yeah, I do agree. I think this is going to be a good fight. Especially for Cory Sandhagen after the whole thing with TJ Dillashaw. Because I do remember that being like there was some not conflict, but people had different opinions on the end result of that fight, right? Or the decision of the fight. But I mean, to me, I think this is going to be a good fight, and I think it helps Cory Sandhagen especially put himself back in contention for fighting for the belt. I think it's just a matter of, will he be able to beat Petr Yan, which, I mean, some will probably have him as their favorite or as their underdog, depending on how you look at the fight based off the two fighters. But I'm ready for this. I think I'll be ready to watch this fight. When is this fight actually supposed to? Did they put out the date for this fight exactly?
If I'm not mistaken, this fight happens on the 30th of this month. And just to fill you in, that fight between Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling actually happened earlier this year.
Oh wow! Yeah,
in March.
Yeah, geez, man. Yeah, so it's been about 7 months then. Yeah, it seems like, I swear to you, living in the pandemic, it seems like you live in a hyperbolic chamber, man. Time goes so fast.
That's not the first time I heard you say that, but you're right though. It is a little weird. Timing definitely works a little different.
Yeah, it's like it's just such a weird thing, man. But I one thing I will say that I do know about time is that some things in time never, the end result never changes. And I'm hoping for that in terms of October 9th, this Saturday between Fury and Wilder. where they'll be actually fighting again against each other for their third fight, which was supposed to happen this summer, but it got postponed because Wilder, I believe, had to back out of the fight. So what's your thoughts on this, man?
I want to know who you have taking this fight, Spence. Come on. You got to give us the...
Listen, man, I've said this before. I said this when he fought Klitschko. I said this when he stopped fighting. And Anthony Joshua and Wilder were out here looking for the belts and traveling the world like it was Dragon Ball Z. Like, I have Fury. I think Fury is the best heavyweight in boxing for a while now. I've said this before he beat Klitschko. Well, I said this after he beat Klitschko. I will be honest there. But I don't see Wilder. I don't think Wilder has what it takes. I believe he's changed his coach as well for this fight, which can help, but it's only so much. Like, I was seeing someone talk about this where they're saying there's only so much you can really do in a small window of time. So in terms of adjustments, and in this case, his whole style, in order for him to win the fight, he would have to change his style of fighting. His style of fighting is not fighting off his back foot, he's not able to, in terms of fighting backwards, he can't fight backwards. And that's what that was the flaw that Fury recognized in their first bout, and he actually used that to his advantage in their second bout. So I don't think Wilder has what it takes. Don't get me wrong, he still has the power. He has the power that, I mean, it is what it is. You can't stop it. It's something that you can't plan or predict. If it hits, when it lands, It's even dropped Fury before. But I just got Fury winning this, man. I think Fury's the more well-rounded fighter. He's more technically sound. He doesn't have to rely so much on a punch, as well as having a game plan already. He has a game plan and he knows how to beat Wilder after the first two bouts. And I believe before the fight they were supposed to have in the summertime, he was already predicting that he would knock Wilder out, which I think is possible probably by the 7th or 8th round. Well, probably by the 9th round.
I think Tyson Fury takes this fight by knockout in the 5th.
5th.
Yeah, I think he gets it done faster this time. Maybe the 6th. But like I think that Tyson Fury just kind of has his number. I mean, I don't really know what else to say. I don't think this fight has taken place far enough from the second fight in order for there to really be a chance for him to, win and compete. I do think that Deontay Wilder is a talented fighter, but I think that he's kind of like missing what he would need to beat Tyson Fury. I don't think this fight stylistically is good for him. That's what I really think it is. I think Tyson Fury just has the style just to beat him. It doesn't really necessarily need to be power because he can just fight him in a way that he cannot overcome. So because of that, I just think he gets it done faster. He might really knock him out this time, like for real.
I mean, it's very possible because I wouldn't be surprised if Wilder's actually going out there looking for it to end the fight early because, I mean, similar to like you said, because anybody that's familiar with Wilder knows that he didn't start boxing until he was like 18 or 19 years old. So within that time span, granted, he went to the Olympics right after he started boxing, which was unbelievable in itself. And I think he placed. Listeners, correct me if I'm wrong. Leave it in the comments or DM us on our Instagram, whatever you need to let us know. But I believe Wilder, he started fighting when he was like 18 or 19 years old. So his wheelhouse isn't even as big as Fury, who, if anybody knows, Tyson Fury is born, he's named after Mike Tyson. So you can already guess he's been fighting since he was a kid. So I think he, like you said, he has his number. Stylistically, he outmatches. Matchup wise, he's stylistically better or more formidable of opponent for Wilder than anybody he's faced before. And I mean, anybody that's watched any of Wilder's old fights, man, he typically loses. He's losing his fights most of the time, or some of his fights, I'll say. Stavern, I won't say that, but like when he fought,
what's the guy knocked him out?
Yeah, I can't think of his name, but the fighter from Cuba.
I know who you're talking about. The one he just went in there and knocked the Sprite off his head, similar to fucking Jorge Masvidal.
Yeah, but he was losing that fight initially because
He didn't lose it though.
He didn't lose it. He didn't lose it, but he was losing the fight because he was fighting someone that was a tech. I mean, we all know Cuban boxing, especially. He was much more of a technically skilled fighter.
Right.
And
well, that's what I mean when I say like stylistically. You know what I mean? Like style wise, like he's just too good at evading and getting in and hitting him. You know what I mean? Especially like, you know, like the weakness you had when you pointed it out before.
Exactly. And it's one of those things that you can't really overcome. And it's at the end of the day, I'll put it this way. I will not be surprised if Wilder is charging his arm up like Mega Man in this next bout, like he was doing in the last fight. And I'm hoping that he doesn't, I don't know, man. I just hope that he's not giving excuses. He doesn't give excuses. He doesn't say that, oh, I was set up. This was planned. The ref cheated. My coach cheated. My corner cheated me. He had something in his gloves. They gave me tainted water. My suit was too heavy. My suit didn't have too much. I was walking around too long with it. Like, with all those lists of excuses, with 9 months to prepare, I don't think he has what he has what it takes to win. If he surprises me, it's going to be by a knockout, but I don't believe it. I don't see it nor believe it happening.
Man.
Like, oh, yo, you know what would be crazy? This would be one heck of a finish, right? Okay. And I don't know if you ever watched this fight or not. This was like a crazy knockout. But it'd be crazy if Wilder flatlines him the same way Manny Pacquiao got flatlined by Juan Manuel Marquez. You remember that?
That was upsetting to me, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I used to like watching Manny Pacquiao box, and like when he was actually boxing, like in his heyday, when I saw that shit, I was just like, damn, they did Manny dirty. But I mean, didn't he fight him like 5 times or something like that?
Yeah, I think that was like their 4th time fighting him and Juan Manuel Marquez. Him and Marquez, I don't want to mess up his name or chop his name up, but him and Marquez have fought. I think that was like their 4th time, 3rd or 4th time. It's 3 or 5. It was between there where he had finally fought him. But yeah, that was probably one of the craziest things. I remember they were showing clips of people watching it in the Philippines, and they thought he had died in the ring. Yeah, so that was kind of crazy, but I'm very curious. That would be a crazy way for Wilder to actually lose the fight. But yeah, man. Actually, but speaking of Manny, actually though, I don't know if you heard, but you saw where he's at. He's actually apparently he's about to retire, or he's announcing that he's retiring.
Shouts out to Manny Pacquiao, legend of the sport. I'm glad that he's retiring, honestly. I think that more people, when they get to, like, how old is he? Like 45? He's in his 40s, right?
Yeah, he's like a year or 2 younger than Floyd.
Yeah, man. Like, do you really need to be competing at that age, like, in a sport that's as vicious as boxing or, you know, like MMA or something like that? Like, nah, like, I think that he's done enough. He's a legend of the sport. He has the champion forever belt, so he's forever a champion. You never have to worry about that.
That's ridiculous.
I think it's the time. Just, you know, go off and, you know, do your political thing in the Philippines. I respect it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we all have to respect from a fighter like Manny Pacquiao. I believe his record is like, I think he'll retiring now. I think his record would be like, I think he has like 72 fights, so it's like 62 wins, 8 losses, and maybe like 2 draws or something like that. So,
like, come on.
Yeah, and like, so when you look at it from that perspective, you have nothing but the utmost respect. This guy has made it to his 40s. I believe he's also like the president, or he's supposed to be running for president or some office within the Philippines. So, I mean, I think this is probably the best thing for Manny going to the second chapter of his life, the next chapter of his life, rather.
He's 42.
42. Oh, wow. Yeah. So he's been doing it for so long. Like, and then on top of it, I believe he went pro in 1991, somewhere around there. So he's been fighting for so long. His pro debut was 95. So if his pro debut was 95, we're talking practically 26 years of fighting professionally and being at the top. And I think his last 5 fights, he might be like 3-2.
I'm just glad that he's done now, though. I think he's done more than enough. It's time for him to get some rest. And you know who else I'd like to be done? Jake Paul. But he's not done. Why? Because I feel like it's annoying. We have to come in here as a combat sports podcast in some way, shape, or form. We have to talk about him. Now this isn't directly about him, but apparently he signed one of the Serrano sisters, Amanda Serrano, to box for his promotion. How do you feel about this?
Honestly, I think it's great. I think it's great personally because he did have Amanda Serrano as his undercard fight during his last fight. Granted, there is some flack because Jake Paul is Jake Paul, but at the same time, he has found a way of actually filling up seats. And if from the article that I read, if his end goal is to get Amanda Serrano to be as big as possible, and as he would say, add that secret sauce that they've been using, which, everybody has their own speculations what that is. I wish Lau was actually here to say what it was. But yeah, I honestly, I think it's good only because anybody that's willing to help other fighters become better fighters, granted, he's a novelty to the sport, but he's trying to actually build up an actual real fighter who's a champion, who's considered one of the greatest. So, granted, I think it would be very impressive to see how this goes if he handles her right.
I think Jake Paul, as a new boxing promoter, is doing everything he's supposed to be doing, and hyping her up and hyping up the way that he's going to make her like a star. You know what I mean? Right. So to me personally, I have more of a I'll believe it when I see it type thing because he needs a few things to get this done. Especially opponents, because we have no idea as to who should be fighting, and whatnot. So I'm a little bit more skeptical of this whole situation just because I'm not sure as to what he'll do. It doesn't mean he can't do it. I'm just skeptical of it. But that being said, though, I think watching the whole thing go down, if he is successful in making her a big boxing star, like he says, then maybe he can do things with other boxers. Maybe this could actually be a career change for him if he's actually successful, because that would be an achievement, if he can make a few boxers popular.
Oh, absolutely. I think it would be an achievement if he makes them popular. But I think granted, we do have to take into account, like, if you're given the best source, right, in his situation, he's given the best raw material. You get your first signee is a champion, which is kind of a cheat code because it's at that point it's just like, hey, I don't have to question if you can complete the task because we know that you got the belts, you were on my undercard, you beat Shorty up, but I need to see, like, my main concern now is to see what can he do in terms of growing her as an athlete.
Well, let me ask you a question, Spence. Like, so she's I'm assuming she's a multi-division champion. I don't know much about her fighting career. And I would assume that anybody else who has a belt or, is worth fighting is already tangled up in some type of promotion. So who is she going to fight?
To be honest with you, the fight I would love to see is her fight Clarissa Shields. Do
you think she's going to box for him after he called her the GOAT? It sounds like he's just trying to goad her into some type of situation.
Who? Oh, Clarissa Shields?
No, he called Amanda the GOAT.
I'm not mad at it because I think others have called her that as well. Like, others have called her the GOAT, but I think even after her fight, after her win when she fought Jake Paul, I believe the ring announcer had also called her that, but she's very a humble fighter and she likes to say, "Oh, no, I'm not. Thank you." And she,
okay. So it's just something. All right.
Yeah. So it's not like something that he's pushing, but
I took that as him throwing a jab at Clarissa since that's like her thing.
But even then though, we've seen clips where it seemed like she was throwing shots at Amanda by saying, "Yo, I would never be on the undercard." I believe her words were, "I would never be on the undercard for a Jake Paul fight." Like, so, I mean, but I'm not sure when that was said, if that was post or pre-fight between Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul. But I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not mad at this. I think this shows, to be honest with you, I think in the terms of the sport of boxing, I think this is good for boxing because at the end of the day, bro, no matter who she fights, I mean, and let's call a spade a spade. Most people are not familiar with boxing as a whole, let alone women's boxing, unfortunately. Right. So I can't even tell you who she would fight next, who would be the best opponent outside of like those top names, which I think people will want to see her fight, like someone like Clarissa Shields. But I don't know. I mean, I do remember reading in the article, which I would not be happy if he took this route, was that I guess Amanda Serrano has a 1-0 or 2-0 record in MMA. So
see, that's the type of shit that I'm expecting. Something hokey, you know what I mean? Some type of carnival type shit. And if it's not, then great. If it is, exactly what I thought.
So if she was to do an MMA bout, it would be carnival?
No, that's not to say that. I think more boxers actually should get into MMA fights. But at the same point in time, like, is it a boxing promotion or is he running an MMA promotion? Or is he just running whatever he wants? Is it just Jake Paul Productions?
Hey, listen, Dana had his hand in that whole fight between Floyd and Conor.
Hey, I'm not saying that. We all know what that was. And I
mean, but I get it, but I'm just saying, like, I'm quite sure whoever the promoter is for, I'm not going to say it for Clarissa Shields because I don't know who her promoter is, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's an overlap between her promoter currently for boxing and the promoter she has that's pushing her within fighting as well.
I think it really all depends on how you do it, man. I don't think anybody who's worth fighting would necessarily step out from any organization that they're in to fight Amanda Serrano in a MMA fight. That's my thing. So I don't want her to just be fighting somebody who's been chilling on the couch for 5 months.
I mean, listen, bro. I see it. This is what we should do. This is what he should do. Amanda Serrano versus Clarissa Shields.
An MMA fight?
Boxing. Both.
Oh, God. You know, I'm more interested in watching. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, listen, I know it's not the thing that you want to see, but the reality is at the end of the day, I just think whatever he tries to do to help the sport of boxing or women's boxing, because he has an actual professional athlete now under his belt, of course, there's going to be some gimmick, but I think at the same time, he's going to find a way of making it work. Like, right now we have Bob Arum. Like,
I'll have more fun watching the Super Bowl halftime that's coming up this year.
Force Morse. That's all you want to hear, man?
I'd rather hear that than anything that has to do with that. This year, listeners, well, I should say next year, we will have a special performance at the Super Bowl halftime. It will be Kendrick Lamar, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, and Mary J. Blige. My question to you, Spence, is before we really get into this, who comes out first?
Ooh, dang, that's hard.
And with what song?
Sheesh, I don't know, man. That's disrespectful.
Who do you send out first? Oh, okay. You sending out Snoop first. You like fuck him.
Nah, Snoop's my favorite rapper, bro. Like, he's one of my favorites, bro. I can't do that to him. I feel like it's disrespectful. I would have to send out Mary J. Blige first.
You knew who I'm sending out first? I'm sending out Eminem first.
I thought that. I was thinking that, but he's too big.
No, that's why I'm sending him out first. Because Eminem's big. And then I think after that, probably the next biggest pop is Kendrick. But I think between the two of them, you might as well send out one of the two first. Kendrick's going to put out his album this year. So you already know people are going to be waiting for Kendrick, probably more so than Eminem at this time, probably like for sure more so, right? So it's like at this point in time, you send out Eminem, who is big, but maybe at this point in time, Kendrick gets the bigger pop and you send him out later?
I don't know. I can't see Eminem opening up for Kendrick Lamar though, man. I can't because I mean, granted, from a fan's perspective, we looking at it this way, but let's just call a spade a spade. If Eminem comes out first, he is opening up for Mary J. Blige, Snoop Dogg, and Kendrick Lamar.
It'll never happen.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll never happen.
Like
one of them have to open though.
Yeah, Mary J. Blige, bro.
Do they all just come out at the same time? Stand there.
Nah, that'd be corny, man.
It would be.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Dr. Dre comes out first, plays Still Dre, Snoop Dogg comes out after that. It probably finds a way of having, like, depending on who's losing, maybe actually if the Giants made it, which I doubt. But if the Giants, yeah, I highly doubt that. But it would be amazing to see Mary J. Blige, who's a New York native, saying "No more pain in my life," while the Giants are getting smacked during halftime. But
I think it's in California this year.
Yeah, it is. It is in California.
So Snoop Dogg, just bring Snoop Dogg out, man. Come on.
You would want Snoop Dogg to open up for Mary J. Blige?
Nah, not even. Come on, yo. You're thinking about it the wrong way.
I'm
thinking. Hold on, wait. Just hear me out. Why don't you have Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre do a rendition of California Love? They can come out at the same time. What's wrong with that? You have a problem with that? It can lead into Still Dre and then it's something else.
I don't know, but California Love you got Tupac though, and
I know. I said their rendition. I ain't say
I don't want to hear someone. I don't want to hear like I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that. It sounds good though.
Listeners, we're looking forward to it.
Honestly, you know what? Best person to open this whole thing up, Tupac. Bring the digital version of Tupac back the same way we had Chief Keef and Pac before. Bring them back, and then we can have them both. Actually, we can bring So Savelli and perform as well. I think that might be the best. Have Tupac, Snoop Dogg, and Dr. Dre open this joint up. Maybe Mary J. Blige do some of her vocals. She might be a little bigger because she's in power, but.
Well, listeners, let us know who you want to start this off with. I'm curious to hear what y'all think, but I mean, like, I really don't know. I don't think there is necessarily a good choice to have.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't think there is, but I do think I will not be surprised if Eminem. Honestly, I won't be surprised if Eminem and Kanye. Oh, not Kanye. I won't be surprised if Eminem and Kendrick Lamar have a song together, and they find a way of closing out that way, because Eminem is the bigger artist. He's not the biggest act right now, but he is the bigger artist. So
when do you think we hear "Lose Yourself"?
Ooh,
Arms weak.
Listen, man, I don't know that. I think we'll probably hear that. You'll probably hear that over the sound of someone throwing up their mom's spaghetti in the bathroom. To be honest with you. Yeah. Listen, man, you know how drunk people get at Super Bowls?
I'm not saying they don't. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't thinking about that.
Hey, listen, man, some people try to eat some people try to eat during the tailgate.
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
That mom spit, and they're lucky that this is in California, because I'm not sure if you did see that though, but Eminem, he's been doing like this pop-up based off Lose Yourself. Okay. Which is called Mom Spaghetti. Knees is weak, arms is heavy, Mom Spaghetti on the sweater already. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. I won the rap battle. But yeah.
Yeah, you hate Eminem.
No. I just don't think, I think Eminem's overrated, but I do think he's a talented rapper.
We'll get more into that another day. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, if you don't like it, leave a comment. If you don't like that I said I think Eminem is overrated, leave a comment. Tell me why in your comment. If you watch this and you don't say anything, I'm assuming that you agree with me. But yeah, I think this is dope that Eminem has created. He's actually looking to create a chain of restaurants now called Mom Spaghetti based off a pop-up he's done.
Nice.
As a fan, how do you feel about this?
I think it's cool. I think they had a little I went to Firefly, maybe if not definitely not last year, but the year prior to that, and they had a little place there called Mom Spaghetti. Now I'm not going to be but I'm not going to be at a festival eating spaghetti. That's like the last damn thing I'm trying to eat. I'm going hard. You know what I mean? Like, and spaghetti's the last thing I want, to eat. I'll put it like that. But that being said, though, I think that it's cool. I think it's dope. I think, more celebrities should do this. I think, everybody should find ways to make more money. I like that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And as a person that's an avid lover of cooking, an avid lover of food, i.e. a foodie, everything in between, I think this is perfect. I think this will give Eminem a chance to, well, not just Eminem, but it just shows how artists can find ways of expanding themselves outside of just the wheelhouse of music. We've seen this before with Rick Ross over the Wingstops. He's went as far as actually creating the whole thing with Thigh Stop, which is a huge success now. We've seen it with even 2 Chainz in the sense of like the most expensive ish show he has. Action Bronson doing F That's Delicious, and now I believe he actually comes out with his own olive oil. So to see a rapper find a way of taking something that we associate with them off of their past music and catalog and materializing it, I think this is perfect. I'm hoping to see more artists do the same, follow suit over time.
So, Spence, I know you're a big fan of Meek Mill, and I know he just recently put out an album. Now, I know he's been all about his business ventures and whatnot recently, but how did you feel about his most recent album, Expensive Pain, since we're talking about money?
Yeah, so, well, let me ask this first. Should we start this off with love or should we start this off with hate?
All right, I'll let you start it off because I think you probably have the better things to say about this album.
Well, yeah, okay, perfect. Well, okay, cool then. So, personally, I think this wasn't a bad album. I don't have it. So before I get into the comparisons and all that, giving you like a 2-minute synopsis, let me say this. I think this album was pretty good for Meek. I saw so many people talking about, yo, this is it, Flamer, da 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 da.
They said that about this album?
Oh yeah, when it first dropped. But I mean, of course, that's recency bias, as Lau would like to say. It happened like so quickly. It was like as soon as it dropped. But I try to live with it over the weekend. I think this was a really good album. Meek does show parts of himself where he's rapping. We do get Meek being a little bit more heavy with the auto-tune, but that wasn't something so surprising to me just because of anybody that's watched any of his clips that he's been putting out for a while now. It sounds just like it is not too far-fetched from that, as well as him saying it really took Lil Baby and Durk to get him to inspire him to actually get back into the studio. So I'm not surprised so much. There are some songs that sound a little Durkish, but it's part of the sound. But at the same time, Meek was rapping with auto-tune prior. So, I mean, I'm not upset by this. I think this was a good project. It's not better than Champions. Expensive Pain is probably one of my favorite songs off this album. Tweaking. Some people don't like it. I think Flamer's flow is how I met Meek Mill initially in 2006, 2007. So I'm a huge fan of it. I think the intro wasn't bad either, but I will say if you play the album on repeat, you will notice that as soon as Flamer flows in and the intro begins, it sounds like it's just one big record. So it kind of just helps that loop. So I'm not really sure if the intro was really intended to be an intro or not. But how about yourself, man?
I don't know. To me, I thought this album was okay. Like, that's really all I can say. I didn't hate it, but I didn't really necessarily think it was one of the better albums of the year. I think Meek Mill has rapping ability. I think definitely when it comes to his flows, Meek Mill can rap. I didn't necessarily mind the auto-tune songs. Like, they're not my favorite because it's just not my type of thing. But at the same point in time, it was interesting to hear him, dive into Lil Durk's playbook, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie, because there were some points in time where I just thought it was Durk straight out. And I mean, like, I understand that. I mean, come on, let's be real. You heard it. I know I heard it. You know what I mean?
You can hear similarities. I never once thought Meek Mill was Dirk on any song off this album, bro.
I got some hints here and there on certain songs, but that's not to say that the songs like we're terrible. That's not necessarily my cup of tea. But I mean, at the same point in time,
well, you hate Dirk anyway, so
no, I don't hate. See, that's the thing. I don't hate Dirk. I don't necessarily like that type of music. It's just not my shit. That being said, I can't really praise it if it's not mine, but I will respect it for what people like it to be, and that's not my shit. You know what I mean? So,
hey.
Me personally, I thought that there were some good songs on this album. I thought Meek Mill was rapping on this album. That being said, surprisingly enough, I didn't listen to Championships. I keep on forgetting to listen to it. It just slips my mind. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'll probably end up listening to it tomorrow, and I'll have something to say about it next week.
Yeah, definitely listen to that because that's definitely one of I think that's probably one of Meek's favorite albums by some people
Right.
may have something else, but I think as a whole for some of his fan base is more into like the rapping side, I guess. I think Championships is probably his best album, especially with all that was surrounding him at the time. But yeah, to me, I think this was a good album. I don't know. I think you just got. I think this may be an album that you'll have to sit with, and probably once you listen to Championships, I think then you could probably it may change or impact your viewpoint on this Expensive Pain as a follow-up album to that.
See, but the crazy thing is that even though everybody was saying that Championships was a good album, I thought it was going to be around this album where I just thought it was okay. You know what I mean? So like it's not like I haven't heard projects from Meek Mill that were actually good. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that this isn't my favorite. So I will take some time to listen to Championships, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. Sometime soon in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it'll take some time, but I mean, I think it should be interesting though, because especially with the way Meek now is, I guess, adapting to that sound that Dirk has, not as much. It's not as heavy. Oh, actually, before I even say that, am I tripping or the intro? Didn't he use that Didn't he use that same sample to diss Drake?
No. I think what we heard on the diss to Drake was the Undertaker theme, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. It's been so long since that whole thing happened.
No, that was the Undertaker one you're talking about. That was also that was supposed to be like a leaked version, or no, the Undertaker diss song that he had played a snippet of it, and it ends where it's like, oh, this is Ja Rule and 50 Cent. The song I'm talking about is off of the War Pain album, right? Or I think it might be called War Pain, but I believe that was off like this 4-track EP that he put out where he's taking his shots at Drake, but it's kind of like that Super Ugly song where it kind of like it hit, but no one really listened to it. It didn't hit as much as the initial diss song. So
I would have to listen to it, man. It's been so long since I'm like very removed from that beef. I think I randomly thought about it the other day, and then it's so far. They seem to be cool, all that shit. You know what I mean? Taking pictures together and shit.
Yeah, yo, man, listen, it's bound to happen. The moment we saw it happen with Jay-Z and Nas, that's when I knew, hey, any of this stuff is possible. Only person we'll never see that with is probably 50 Cent or or probably Dirk with people from 63rd.
No, that's fair enough.
I mean, but we never know. I mean, but even then, at the same time, Dirk probably wouldn't have a problem with it. I think The Voice just was certified gold.
Your favorite album of all time?
No.
Come on, don't lie to the listeners, man. Come on.
The Voice is, personally, I'm not a big fan of The Voice. That's
what?
Nah. Oh, no. Nah, that's not the album I like by Dirk.
Okay.
The album that I'm a big fan of by Dirk, what's the name of it? I think it's it has 248 on it, which is like probably one of my favorite Dirk songs.
Okay. I actually don't know what that is.
Just because y'all waited. Y'all waited too. To me, that's probably my favorite project by him. But The Voice was still a big project. It's certified gold now. I believe The Voice of the Heroes is also gold. It's actually a big week for Dirk, bro. Because My Beyonce, which came out in 2015, has finally went platinum, is officially a platinum record. So he finally has a platinum record as well. I don't know. Shout outs to Dirk. I mean, I know you're not a fan of his music or his work or any of his body of work that he's ever put out in his life. But I mean, this is a moment in time where you can at least show some love.
Shouts out to Lil Durk. Still Trapping is easily the best song on The Voice. I like that song a lot. That song's hard. But yeah, it is. But yeah, that's all I really have to say. Shouts out to Lil Durk. I have no personal issue with the man.
I feel you. I can understand that. I mean, I don't think anybody who knows in your case? Who knows? You might have a personal issue with him.
To be continued, man. To be continued.
Hey, man. Well, do you have an issue with another shot? Well, because we know he's the Jay-Z of Chicago, right?
Yes.
How do you feel about not necessarily the Jay-Z, but the second half of the
best of both worlds?
The best of both worlds.
Oh, man.
How do you feel about that as the listeners, if you're not aware, last week, R. Kelly was found guilty. So he has not been sentenced yet as of today, but as of this recording, but he was found guilty.
It's so crazy, right? Because, we talk about like the artist and the art and the athlete and the accolades. The whole situation is weird. I think it's a day to celebrate now that he's behind bars. You know what I mean? Like, Look, come on now. R. Kelly, it's R. Kelly. I don't think anybody's sad that he's going to jail. It's R. Kelly. Like, I'm not talking about like some random guy we grew up with. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this dude is a monster.
Yeah, listen, man. This whole thing is like really crazy to say the least. Like, I mean, anybody when you're found guilty of those type of crimes and it's something that you've done, like even like Akon said, right? Because they asked Akon about this in terms of him rehabilitating himself and integrating himself back into society one day if he were to be released from jail. Because I believe right now they're talking about possibly giving him life, possibly.
Good.
That's the maximum sentence. Hey, man, I'm not for anybody touching kids. So you won't hear me have any blowback out of this, but it's kind of crazy. I mean, I think at this point, I'm hoping that he can get the help that he needs. All right. Hopefully he can get the help that he needs and that those families that were involved in this whole thing.
I do agree with that part. I think that, a lot of times while I do think he should rot in jail, I think that he should get the help he needs. I'm not against people getting help if they truly want help. I don't think he truly wants help. That's the problem. I think that it's good. It's a good day for a lot of people, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. So do you think, let me ask you this, right? What do you think is a better punishment? Should he go to jail or should they put him in the Squid Games to see if he can get his own freedom?
Ooh, man, the Squid Games, man. Me personally, I'm not going to advocate for him to be in the Squid Games. That seems cruel. You know what I mean? Like a cruel punishment for anybody. But I think he should get the help he needs. I watched all the Squid Games. I'm not sure if you watched it. How far did you get? Well, first of all, spoiler alert for the listeners, because we're going to talk about spoilers for the show. If you haven't watched it, you should. It's crazy as shit, and that's all I'm going to say. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I've only watched the first episode. I've watched some of the second episode as well. I think the show's from what I've seen so far, I think this is a crazy show. It's probably one of the wildest shows I've ever seen, especially when they played Red Light, Green Light. Just starting off, it's like, what? And for those listening, as Nigel said, this is the spoiler podcast at this point. This is the spoiler cast. So I'm going to call it what it is. If you lose, you die. And that's how the game is. Yeah, that's how the game is played, unfortunately. So, I mean, granted, thank God this isn't a real life game. But yeah, the show is kind of like it's a crazy show, man. It's a crazy show about people trying to make money for whatever reason, from my understanding so far.
A lot of these people, well, sorry, go ahead.
And they are risking their lives to do so. I believe the brother-in-law or the dude that went to school or was actually, you know who I'm talking about? Like
I
in
know
the
you're
first,
talking about. Yeah.
his mom owns the shop. I think he's actually the writer of the show.
Really? You
Yeah,
know,
I seen a post saying that apparently he had been shopping the show around. Him or whoever the writer was shopping the show around for the past 10 years.
yeah, I was reading about that too. I like the show a lot, man. Like, I think that this show is actually pretty crazy. I think Korean media is definitely taking off right now, because there's just been a few things, and this is like one of the few things. I was watching it, and I watched the whole thing over the weekend. Like, I was very intrigued by it after the first episode, just because I didn't know anything about it watching it, and then like going in blind like that, I was like, oh, okay, this is what this is about. And you know, it doesn't let up from there, you know, until the end, really. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I think it's an enjoyable watch. I am suggesting, and I'm highly advising it to the listeners who are still listening to this, definitely take out some time and watch the Squid Games. It's brutal. If you don't like violence, don't watch it.
Yeah, and I will say this for those that are unsure, this is, from my understanding, this is probably like one of the biggest shows on Netflix right now.
Easily.
For it, and I've heard something, but I didn't fact check it. But I believe this is probably like their biggest viewed show so far. So, which is big, especially knowing who's dropping this week.
What do you mean?
Dave Chappelle. His comedy special comes out on the 5th of October. So Tuesday.
Oh, shit.
At midnight, his newest comedy special will be out, which is called Closure.
Man.
Commercial has him and Morgan Freeman in it. So
is this the last one for him, you think?
I don't know, but the title sounds like it. I wouldn't be surprised because I know he had like, I'm not sure I think it was like 6 or 4 to 6. I think it was 6 show deal, and I think this may be his 5th or 6th one, because he did those 2 sets where there were 4.
Yeah,
and then I don't know. I know he did one on YouTube, but I don't think that was going to Netflix. I'm not sure.
316 one or whatever. No, it wasn't 316. It was some time.
Oh, 8 minutes and 14 seconds. The time was the amount of time that the officer had on the neck of George Floyd. Rest in peace, George Floyd, and respects to his family. But yeah, so Dave Chappelle is dropping. So he might give Squid Game a run for their money. But right now, for listeners, this looks like it's the show. And Dave's stand-up will probably be something worth watching as well on Netflix.
Well, I know that people are thankful because there was a social media blackout today that happened. Apparently, at some point in time today, all of social media just stopped working. And people might know why. I personally didn't get affected by it because I was at work the entire day. And by the time I left, I had no service. So I got home and my shit was pretty much working. I wasn't affected by the social media blackout, but it seemed like people were not happy. And we're talking about trying to get off of social media for some reason. Now, Spence, do you have any word on this situation?
I only can say on what I saw. So from my understanding, there could be possible influences. I've seen some say this because this happened right after. I watched this on the news as well. That this blackout happened shortly via Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp. I believe they said this blackout happened shortly after right after the whistleblower. So after the whistleblower had went public, so that could possibly be something, as well as people coming up with these theories that it's because of Adele, as she's apparently made a tweet that she's returning, and i.e. she's dropping another album, which I think her fans will probably go crazy for, which I'm quite sure Drake is glad he dropped his album when he dropped it. But I'm not quite sure. I think this is kind of crazy. I think it's kind of crazy as to how much social media impacts people, and the fact that when something like this shuts down, it can really drive people to say like, yo, I don't know what to do with my time. So
I think I don't know, man. It's interesting. I think it's cool to see how people react when things like this happen. It's interesting because on one hand, you have people who overreact and like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm gonna do, blah, 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 blah. And they can't, stand a few hours or maybe a day or two without social media. Then you have other people who actually are dependent on social media, who, actually make money off of it. So for them, social media going down is them literally having money taken out of their pocket. So it is kind of interesting to see where the two meet. Yeah,
I definitely agree there. I think there's probably the happy medium is probably the people that are at work, to be honest with you, that don't have time. That same here, I didn't really have time to be on social because it was during the work day. But yeah, I think that's that happy medium of people that were affected but not affected, and if that makes any sense. But yeah, it does show you how much this impacts those that are either there for killing idle time or those, like you said, that this is their bread and butter. I think it probably also shows how stuff like this happens. It shows how dependent we are, just as a society, whether it's for business or if it's not for leisure. But I mean, of course, once anything, same with Twitter jail. Once you're free, you don't even think about the crime you did, or you don't even think about the time spent. So, i.e. saying that once it opened back up, I was seeing posts saying like, hey, we're free. No more blackout. We're back. Minutes back on whatever the platform was. So I don't know. This is very, very interesting. At some point, I'm wondering how much of this is a social experiment at some point, just because you just think about this, because this happens every once in a blue. I think maybe a few times a year. Some of these social platforms actually just shut down, and typically I've gone to Twitter to check to see if it's just me or not, and it'll be a trending topic of, oh, this platform is shut down for the day. So I don't know. I think to some extent I'm curious if there's some sense of social experiment happening with this.
To me, it's just social media goes down for a few hours, it'll be back up. And if it went away tomorrow, I wouldn't even care. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure I'd fill my time with something else if that wasn't there. So it is what it is to me. Say it.
Just cut my voice.
Oh my God. Yeah, maybe. But do you have anything else for the listeners?
I will say this. I don't have the shirt on right now, but I do have a Freddie Gibbs, an Alchemist Alfredo shirt. So I say that to say I will be supporting Freddie Gibbs in this whole debacle, we could say, between
with him your and uncle,
with Dr. Umar,
your uncle.
As those who don't know, he said he's called out Freddie Gibbs to a fight and wants Mike Tyson to train him via his words, not mine. So hopefully we can keep the peace, maybe have another conscious cookout. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? Come on, King. You just got married. You got two beautiful wives, two beautiful queens.
Come on now. Don't mess that up.
Yeah. Out here restoring the community, man. Make sure you hit that Cash App for the guy too.
Shouts out to Dr. Umar and Freddie Gibbs. I'm waiting for ESGN too.
Yeah, he's dropping an art. He said it on Joe Budden podcast. He's dropping an R&B album next. I think he tweeted something about that too before.
I'm as skeptical as that as Jake Paul getting any boxers in his promotion that actually do anything.
He's got a champion.
Do you have anything else for the
listeners? Nah, not too much other than a couple things, actually. One, I want to tell the listeners, thank you guys for listening to us. It's been, 76 episodes in.
Yes.
If you do want to find out some more about us, if you've been listening to us, if you're new to the show, if you're old to the show, if you just been rocking with us but ain't been following us, I need you to do me a favor. Follow us on Instagram at the Highly Advised Podcast. If you want to see some of our thoughts, check us out on Twitter at Advised Highly. Or if you want to see our lovely faces while we talk about the things we talk about and put us on the big screen. Don't watch us on just your phone. Don't just watch us on your laptop. Put us on the TV. You got apps for that today. And you can look that up at the Highly Advised Podcast on YouTube. So I just figure I let those people know those things before I head out of here. But please follow us, like, comment, subscribe, tell us what you like, what you don't like. That's all I got. And don't forget to drink your water as well.
Okay. All right. I thought you were going to forget.
Listen. On Larry June, I'll never forget that.
Listeners, you have been highly advised. We will see you next week. I have nothing else for you guys. You've been highly advised.
You've been highly advised. Shashaw.